You know, they give people blood pressure medications because people don't eat green vegetables. Green vegetables lower your blood pressure. They prevent atherosclerosis from developing in the anterior lining. We give you drugs instead of green vegetables all the time. The medical profession has figured out a way to have people stay eating unhealthily. Doctors aren't doing they're not primarily worthless. Because worthless means they're not hurting or helping, it's just doing nothing. Mostly what doctors doing is worse than worthless. Let's be serious here. Let's call it what it is. We're giving people drugs so they don't have to eat healthy. We're giving them blood pressure medications so they don't have to eat healthy. They don't have to cut back on their salt. They don't have to eat vegetables. They can keep eating fast food with a blood pressure medication that causes cancer. We give them a folate pill so they don't have to eat vegetables. We give them statin drugs so they keep eating spare ribs. We do a bypass surgery or angioplasty so they don't have to exercise and eat right. And does the angioplasty or bypass surgery extend their life and then prevent future risk of a future heart attack? Of course not. It increases your risk of future death and morbidity. Because now they put a foreign body in your heart that increases the risk of developing a clot or a heart attack. So now you got to be put on a blood thinner for the rest of your life. And now you're on a blood thinner for the rest of your life, which forever increases your risk of having a hemorrhagic stroke. So all they did is give you an increased risk of a hemorrhagic stroke now by putting it into your heart. Of course, some people do need a stent because they're having a heart attack at the moment, because it's an emergency. But of course, they would have never been in that emergency situation if they were given the right information by the cardiologist before they got to that point. Of course, the point is everybody should know this information. What I'm saying right now is the reliance on medication and the population's reliance on medication and the messaging from the medical profession and the pharmaceutical industry to our population and its effect on the media and the government has the effect to have created this nation of sick people. If we didn't have all these drugs, people would be forced to rely on eating healthy and living healthier. I'm saying that, sure, emergency medicine and some things medical doctors do have benefit, but on the whole, most of what's being done is supporting a population that's the sickest, most overweight and injured mentally and physically population in the history of the human race that's perpetuated by our medical profession. Because we just give them medications instead of teaching them how to teach and remove the cause of disease. Let's get back to the lecture for a minute. We're talking here that you damage the genes, and we're talking that the link between fast food and candy and processed foods and mental illness and drug addiction and illegal drug use and crime is stronger than the link between poverty and crime and lack of parents and crime and bad parenting and crime and any other measure of deprivation you could think of. There's nothing that correlates better with crime than consumption of candy in childhood and drug use and drug abuse. And half the people in federal prisons today are there because of nonviolent drug-related offenses. The point I'm telling you the point I'm making right now is that this junk food diet we eat in America has far-reaching effects on all of American society. It keeps people in poverty. It creates crime. It keeps people on drugs. It puts people in prison. It takes away the American dream from large segments of our population, and it keeps our whole population in this prison of addiction where they no longer have their full mental faculties to control their lives and make the adequate choices. Because you're not making decisions for yourself anymore. Your primitive brain seeking addiction is making the decisions for you. Because the first thing you want to do is have your addictions be satisfied so you're getting out of discomfort more than anything else in your life, more than taking care of your kids, more than having goodwill for humanity or doing something good for your community, whether working together with other people, whether creating beauty in the world, whether making up a song, whether doing good at your job. The thing that matters the most to you is making sure your addictions are satisfied. That drive, it's the number one driver in your life. That's what's so horribly ugly on American society, that we created a nation of food addicts and drug addicts due to junk food. Now, when you live in a food desert, you have double the risk of heart attacks and strokes, and 80% increased risk of fatal stroke before age, 80% risk of, and actually you have 10 times the risk of stroke before age 45 in those communities. Double the risk of developing dementia, 4 times likely to have kidney failure. The food deserts have even less access to produce. You've taken away this opportunity. You know what? What I'm saying right now is that this is a form of bigotry. Because we learn in medical school, what we're learning in medical school is bigoted. Let me just think about this for a minute. Because we're learning that black Americans have increased risk of diabetes and prostate cancer and breast cancer and dementia and death and lower opportunity as far as intellectual achievement, all this stuff, and they're blaming it on skin color, which has nothing to do with it. It's the food that's in their environment, what they're being served, because when we look at Caucasian populations eating the same bad diet or in the same low access to produce, we see the same exact problems. It has nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with genetics play a very tiny role, no role in intelligence and ability to reach the American dream. This is bigotry in action. Because we think, actually, when you look at the data of the health data on black Americans when they were first freed from slavery, we found that there were more centenarians, more healthier population, more long-lived people among black Americans than there were among the white Southern Caucasians. Do you know that? It wasn't until after the World Wars where they would after the Jim Crow laws and the white supremacy movement and the violence in the South, where they were driven into northern cities, and the World Wars came, and we had the explosion of the fast food industry and the processed food industry. We started making Spam and donuts and crackers and instant coffee and Tang and Kool-Aid so people on the battlefield could carry food with them, and with not refrigeration, these foods became mass-produced and cheap, and we pushed these foods into the inner cities, that we started to see the development of these problems develop in people of color in America. It's not a genetic issue. It's not due to bigotry. I mean, it's not due to genetics. Like, we're thinking that, oh, well, you know, black Americans are more prone to disease. That's not true. And what we're doing is we're taking up populations by pushing them out away from areas where you can grow produce and pushing them into inner cities and having food deserts. What we've done is we're taking away the possibility and potential of part of America from reaching the American dream and achieving their intellectual and economic potential. Did you follow that? Look at this. When we look at the food desert areas by zip code, and we look at, there's so much more obesity and diabetes and we can determine the obesity and diabetes rate not by skin color, but by distance from a source of produce. How much fast food restaurants and convenience stores compared to access to supermarkets. We can determine how much obesity and diabetes there are in the area. Most obesity and diabetics are in the food deserts, regardless of skin color or genetic background or heritage. And then those diabetics or obese people in that area, scientists determine how much years of potential life they lost from living in those areas and eating that food, and it's 45 years of life lost per person on the average for an overweight diabetic living in a food desert. That's incredible, isn't that? That's a genocide, losing 45 years of life from not having access to food. This should be something that affects all of us, right? Affects everybody. Taking away, it's destructive to people. So just mentioning that, pellagra, you heard of pellagra? That's like a niacin deficiency. You know, they developed pellagra in the Deep South because the diet was there corn and molasses and pork, which was low in niacin. And they didn't know it back then. Pellagra went on for decades and decades, for like years and years, causing dementia, violent behavior, suicidal and homicidal thoughts, and it caused a causal neckness, a red neck, or caused you a rash around your neck. It's the origin of the word rednecks, because all these Southerners becoming crazy and violent in the South. And back then, it took about 80 years after the end of the Civil War for the medical profession to first recognize that pellagra was due to a nutritional deficiency, due to lack of vegetables in the diet. They used to think it was genetics. We don't learn from our past mistakes. The same thing's going on today. We're blaming diseases based on nutritional distribution and food distribution inequality on genetics, when it's based on, the southern, and we're seeing it today. The more you eat, of course, now we know pellagra is caused by niacin deficiency. They put niacin into white flour, into cornmeal and stuff. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying right now is this socially promoted violence against blacks was intensified also by the success, the educational success of the black population, achieving economic success and doing well and pursuing their education. And taking away jobs, and there was a competition there, but also was promoted by this violence, was promoted by the widespread nutritional deficiencies, making people more prone to violence and aggression. And what I'm saying to you right now is that poor diets make people more prone to anger and violence and aggression. Nutritionally deficient brains, right? Fresh fruits and vegetables in infancy and childhood has been shown in scientific studies to increase intelligence and school performance in math and science and every subject looked at. The same way healthy foods linked to increased intelligence, fast food and candy and junk food is linked to poor school performance, lower IQ, and regular consumers of fast foods have the absolute worst outcomes. And fast food consumption is linked to autism in your children, because you consume fast food when you're, in your life, you have more childhood cancer, autism, birth defects, learning disabilities, and problems in your children. This is what's going on, right? What's the source of why are children getting autism and childhood cancer? Parents are the problem, because the parents are food addicts. Matter of fact, when the school system says you can't bring candy and cupcakes and cake and ice cream to school anymore when your kid's having a birthday, who makes a big stink about it? The parents, right? The addicted parents who think they're going to deprive their child because they don't want to give up the junk and they don't want to think. It's like a cognitive dissonance where they don't have the ability to think of how they're damaging their child and how they're damaging themselves because they're doing it and they're addicted to it. When you're an addict, you block out the thoughts that what you're doing could be hurting somebody or hurting yourself. You just drive the car and crash it. You're an alcoholic, and you don't even think you might be killing somebody or killing yourself. You're snorting cocaine, or you're doing something. When you're an addict, you lose the ability to thoughtfully think in a large sense. Your own little world ends right where your world ends is your whole world. And you make decisions just about your own, supplying your own addictive needs and caring for other people, doing right for your children, having goodwill for humanity, helping other people, being a good part of your community, being an educator, being whatever it is to be, that's secondary. Your addiction drives your life. And the food addictions driving the life of Americans, making them be inadequate parents, poisoning their children. Right? Children fed candy before age 10. What was Halloween? We celebrate it, right? And the kids, and then they have the little kids start to be addicts pretty young, hiding the candy in their night tables and under their bed, right? Getting high when they're young and then turning into later life drug addicts. Candy and fast food is the gateway drug to heroin and more serious drug use, right? Got to be crazy to eat fast food. But here's the thing. If you eat fast food, it makes you crazy. You become insane. The subconscious mind doesn't want you to change. Emotional eating makes your emotions worse. That's Eric Clapton there. Eric Clapton said sugar was his gateway drug, right? Well, here I'm making a joke. I'm saying heroin was a gateway drug. He used to be on heroin, but now he's eating junk food, donuts and soda. Happens. You know how all the alcoholics go to AA and they come out and they're eating sugar. Right? What's happening in a lot of the religious institutions in America? You go there and they try to hook you in by giving you donuts and feeding you and giving you junk food and keeping you addicts and feeding you with, right? All these fat people, these Americans poisoning themselves, and you go to all using food as a gimmick, as a hook.